Nuclear is re-entering the European energy debate, not as ideology, but as a question of scale, resilience, and baseload reality. As power demand rises and decarbonization timelines tighten, investors are being forced to reassess old assumptions. Jordan Billiald, principal at IQ Capital, will make the case for nuclear and explain where venture capital fits in a sector long dominated by infrastructure and policy. Please welcome Jordan Billiald from IQ Capital.
My name is Jordan from IQ Capital. We are an early stage venture capital firm based in London. Thank you to Andreas for the invite to speak today. I made the mistake of mentioning small modular reactors to Andreas, and now here I am to make the case for the nuclear industry at large. The case for nuclear for me is actually a case for climate and net zero, and that speaks directly to our European values. It's also a case for reindustrialization and European prosperity, and it's a case for energy security and our sovereignty. Let me start by asking everybody here, raise your hand if you think that we've made progress in Europe in the last few decades towards net zero. Raise your hand if you think that's true. In the UK, we've almost totally phased out coal, and renewables now account for around 45% of our energy usage. Over the last few years, countries like Spain, Portugal, Germany, and Scotland have had 100% renewable days. But what have we really done over the last few decades? I would argue that we have deindustrialized. We have outsourced our manufacturing, we have outsourced our primary industries, and with it we have outsourced our carbon emissions. And in fact, our carbon consumption has increased. Of course, we have chronically underinvested in our public infrastructure. And today, we're outsourcing AI, and we're outsourcing tokens. Data centers, factories, hospitals, trains, all of these need reliable baseload energy. And if we are serious about reindustrialization in Europe, if we are serious about bringing manufacturing back to Europe, bringing new data centers and growing our economy, and at the same time, we want to remain true to our values and achieve our climate and net zero goals, we need nuclear energy. Nuclear energy is the only way to decarbonize baseload energy at scale. Of course, we need to continue to develop renewables and long-duration energy storage. But renewables are intermittent, and we can only build renewable capacity at the source. We need reliable power that doesn't vanish for days during cold snaps, heat waves, and low wind periods. Increasing the proportion of energy we source from renewables over the next few decades will also depend on long-duration energy storage and significant and costly upgrades to our grid infrastructure. Nuclear power is dispatchable. We can turn it on and off, we can ramp it up and down, and we can build energy generating capacity where we need it most. Reliability and resilience are national security issues now. The case for nuclear is about security and sovereignty. In recent years, we've learned the hard way that when we depend too heavily on imported fossil fuels and fragile supply chains, energy prices can spike, politics will intrude, and industry and consumers alike will suffer. Nuclear power reduces energy price volatility because nuclear fuel is compact, can be stockpiled, and represents a far smaller fraction of the total operating cost of a power plant. In a world of cyber attacks, extreme weather, and extreme geopolitical uncertainty, energy security is not a luxury that we can afford, it's a requirement. Nuclear's advantages are practical, not ideological. Let me ask you one more question. Raise your hand if you feel supporting nuclear is in some sense controversial. Yeah, a few people in the room. I want to emphasize that my support of nuclear is practical and not ideological, and supporting nuclear should be a practical conclusion. Many people, and rightly so, have environmental and safety concerns about nuclear. Fukushima has cast a long shadow over the nuclear industry and nuclear technologies since 2011. But the fact is that new reactor designs often have multiple layers of containment, passive safety features, and advanced fourth-generation reactor designs and technologies can almost physically eliminate the possibility of a severe incident altogether. Used nuclear fuel is contained and managed, not released into the air. many countries pursue deep geological storage. The challenge with nuclear waste is one of engineering and governance. Fossil fuels routinely harm us every day, you, your children, and society at large, day in, day out, through air pollution and carbon emissions. Even if they don't make the headlines in the same way, this harm is widespread and ongoing. If we truly care about the health of society and the environment, then the question should not be, is nuclear the perfect solution? The question should be, can we operate nuclear safely to deliver the major climate and reliability benefits that we know it can, whilst minimizing and managing risk? The real challenge for nuclear is in cost and delivery. Many recent Western nuclear projects have been delivered over budget and behind schedule. I don't deny that. In fact, I recommend a great book on this topic, How Big Things Get Done, by Danish economic geographer Bent Flyberg. The cost of nuclear power plants is massively prohibitive. The challenge of raising capital to finance them and the cost of that capital is a challenge even for nation states and has a major impact on the eventual cost of the power produced by a nuclear power plant. But the fact is that issues with delivering large infrastructure projects are symptomatic of the challenges and problems that we are facing in Europe right now. Complex and fragmented regulatory landscapes, regulation that cares more about the process than outcomes, a fragmented market limiting economies of scale, NIMBYism on a local and national and international level, and a lack of long-term and strategic thinking in our politics, depth, maturity, and risk appetite of our financial markets. We need to keep existing power plants running longer. That's often the cheapest and most effective way to preserve massive amounts of clean energy. Standardize reactor designs, so we're not doing bespoke nuclear projects over and over again. Modernize our nuclear industrial regulation, and the UK is about to make major steps in this direction. And we need to invest in the nuclear talent pool and supply chain, so we can build rapidly at scale and not slowly and bespoke. Finally, we need to encourage long-term investment with stable policy and international cooperation. Countries and jurisdictions that offer that stability will win out in the end. My take-home point is we must support and adopt new nuclear technologies. Small modular reactors have the potential to solve a lot of the issues that I've outlined, solve the issue of how we finance nuclear, and help us achieve promised economies of scale. Let me end with, if we want to lead as Europe on climate, on industry, on resilience, then our existing nuclear capacity must be maintained. We must build new nuclear capacity, and new nuclear technologies must be supported and adopted. Thank you.